This is Rod Mawhood, your in-game voice of the Niagara IceDogs, and you're listening to the Dog Pound Podcast on the Armchair GM Sports Network, your podcast source for all game analysis, team interviews, and up-to-date news regarding the Niagara IceDogs.
Perlini! Overtime! IceDogs win!
Hosing! Score!
To Akil Thomas. Thomas has the angle coming in. He scores!
Verhaeghe does it again! 52.1 seconds to go. Do you love it, Niagara?
We're happy to have him on the show for a few minutes here. Just came to Niagara, just got his picture taken, put on the jersey. We're pleased to be joined by the second overall selection, Ryan Roobroeck. Ryan, thanks so much for taking some time. I'm sure it's been a whirlwind couple of days for you. Just what has it been like?
Sorry to rush you in here.
Yeah, Darren DeDobbelaer brought him in here. But what has this whole process been like for you, and how happy are you to finally be drafted?
It's truly an honor. I mean, finally be drafted. It's by such a great organization. The last couple of days have just been, I don't know, it's kind of hard to wrap my mind around it, but I'm just enjoying every second of it and looking forward to the future. And
your brother, obviously, Dylan Roobroeck, was a draft pick of the IceDogs back in 2020. How much have you leaned on him during this process, and how much has he been a support system for you going through that process as well as the older brother?
Yeah, I've been able to lean on him whenever. I mean, we've always grown up playing hockey together against each other. Being able for him to go through it once before and then always ask him questions on anything, it's truly amazing, and grateful for what he's done for me and helped me where I am today.
Ryan Roobroeck's with us.
So I brought it up on the show, and earlier in the day, I'm like, at least with me growing up, and my siblings, whenever we did anything that involved the same thing, so now you and your brother are both involved in hockey. With me, it was like cat and dog. We always had to one-up each other. Was that the same with you and your brother growing up? Did you guys always have to one-up each other, or were you guys just there leaning on each other and just being helpful the whole ride?
Yeah, I mean, always growing up, playing mini sticks from road hockey, mini sticks, just kind of everything that could have been turned into a competition was turned into a competition. So, I think that's where I get my competitive edge from, and very grateful for it.
Ryan Roobroeck, what did you think that this season went for you with London, the junior Knights, and just wanting to really build off that season and make sure you come into this OHL draft ready to go with the whole process, and just how did you feel like the season went for you? I know the OHL Cup, you guys, it didn't end the way you wanted it to, but just how much going through that and this season did that prepare you think for the next level?
Yeah, it was a good season. The guys, we've been together for, 7+ years, so finally growing up with them and see how far they've come along, it's great. The season was good. We had a good coaching staff, great group of guys surrounding each other. It was truly a good minor midget season that I think every player would enjoy to be playing in.
I know you're looking forward to getting started in the fall with training camp, but just how excited are you to really get going with this group? And being competitive right away, competing for a roster spot and playing next season.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. I wish it was sooner, to be honest, but work hard off season all along and be ready for training camp. It's nothing more.
And last question for you before you got a lot more stuff to do today, so we appreciate you taking the time. But just for the fans out there, the IceDog fans are so excited to have you here. What is the type of play style that you want to bring to the IceDogs, and who's maybe a player that you try to model your game after at the NHL level that you want to strive to be?
At the end of the day, I hope the fans, coaching, and players, my teammates can rely on me on any situation, no matter what it is. I don't really pick apart I just kind of pick apart games from the NHL, different players, and just kind of take everything in at one time and just put it into my game.
Who was your favorite player growing up?
I don't know. I'd probably have to say Ryan Getzlaf.
Oh, that's a great pick, actually.
Yeah.
Actually, I have a last question, though, because we heard that your brother, after being traded from here to Oshawa, started saying his last name, the pronunciation was Roobroeck. Is it Roobroeck or Roobroeck?
It's Ro, but
It's Roe?
It doesn't matter.
Okay. we strive on saying it correctly, so we're going to say Roe.
You're going to hear so many different pronunciations of it, it's okay. So just go along with it.
Yeah, been hearing a lot of those over the years, so it's all right.
Joined now by the 5th overall selection for the Niagara IceDogs, Ethan Czata. Ethan, have a seat and just grab that mic there. First off, how did it feel to be picked last night? I saw you at the OHL Combine, so I know you've been getting geared up for this moment. Just when they finally called your name for the 5th selection, what was that moment like for you?
Oh, it was just so exciting because everything I've done up to this point has been for that, and it was just also a relief to get it over with.
Ethan, being drafted at 5th overall by the IceDogs, how excited are you by going into next year's camp with this organization, playing alongside such players as we saw Kevin He's rookie campaign this year and what he put up, and then all other players, just to mention Zach Lavoie, Alex Asadorian, among others. How excited are you to get it going to camp this coming August, September, and compete for a spot in this team?
It's going to be exciting because all these guys are very great players. They have bright futures ahead, and it's just something that I want to achieve. So it would help me get a perspective of what I have to do to get there.
You talk about your family's here as well. Just how important have they been in the process for you? All those driving you to hockey practices all those years, and making sure that you made the games on time and the travel games and things like that. Just how important has your family been in this process for you?
Oh, they've been the most important thing. I wouldn't have been playing if they didn't drive me there or didn't drive me to practice every morning or workouts every morning. I owe it all to them.
Mm-hmm. You've had a tour of the facility so far. Looked around the arena, the dressing room. What excites you more or most, I guess, about playing here at the Meridian Centre? I'm sure you've heard about how crazy these crowds can be, even late in the season when the team is in last place. They're almost selling out 5,000 fans in the seats. Just how excited are you to play in front of these fans?
Oh, I can tell it's going to be electric next year, because, we're going to be a better team next year, obviously, and just more fans, more support. It's going to be insane.
Assistant GM Wes Consorti talked about your two-way game, your ability to win face-offs, and the stable presence that you bring to the team. Is that kind of the type of player you are, like a solid two-way centerman, can play in all different ends of the ice and be relied upon in key draws and penalty kill or late moments in games?
Yeah, that's exactly who I am. I'm great defensively, great offensively. I can pass, shoot, just great overall.
Who's a player that you looked up to as far as wanting to mold your game after maybe one of your NHL players that you really looked up to?
Potrecz Bergeron.
Great player to pick there. Yeah, we always ask the players like who they live up to, and we've gotten some traditional names in the past, but I really like Potrecz Bergeron. He's probably one of the best centers to ever do it out there in terms of the two-way game. So that's actually awesome to hear. Are you a Boston Bruins fan by any chance?
I'm a Leafs fan.
Yes, he's a Sabres fan, so he doesn't like that.
Well, there you go, Kyle. I'm glad we got another one in here for you.
Love it.
Ethan, just how exciting is it for you and to meet some of your new rookies that are coming in with you for the same rookie class? Ryan Roobroeck, Artem Frolov. Just how cool was that moment getting to meet those guys as well?
It's a great moment. These guys are great hockey players, and it's great that they're going to be my teammates next year.
The host of the Niagara Sports Report and the Niagara IceDogs public address announcer, that would be Mr. Rod Mawhood. And
Sorry, Rod.
Get you in here.
I'm loving the equipment, guys. It's looking sharp here.
Yeah, thanks a lot, Rod, for joining us. But you've been covering these drafts in Niagara for a long time. Initial thoughts on taking those two forwards with the first two top 5 picks, and then now getting the defenseman and Artem Frolov.
Well, I'm glad they went to the blue line here. Obviously, we know you guys have been discussing it for the last hour or so when I've been listening in here, that they needed a defenseman with who they're losing. They got some size. They got some scoring up front. Good to hear Ryan Roobroeck or Roobroeck. We'll find out. I'm going to try to reach out to him and see what pronunciation. The story behind that is when Dylan, his brother, was here, he said it was Roobroeck. Apparently, when he went to Oshawa, he requested to be called Roobroeck. So we'll find out soon enough the proper pronunciation. But glad to hear, and I don't know if you guys caught some of his comments. He was at OHL headquarters being interviewed by Terry Doyle from the OHL.
And Ryan is excited to be here. And then you guys got to see it. Too bad he didn't get to join you, but I know he'll be back in town tomorrow morning as the rounds 4 to 15 go. Ethan Czata, another forward that the IceDogs selected, was in attendance. Jersey on, pictures taken. So a big day in IceDogs land, and we'll see what happens, Kyle and Brandon.
Yeah, we got to meet him very briefly. He looked very excited to be here, so that's a lot of good promise there with Ethan Czata. And, another forward core to join this already exciting young core the IceDogs have put together up to this point.
Mm-hmm.
And we talk about the local connections. 2 of them on the IceDogs roster right now with Andrew and Jacob LeBlanc. Port Colborne natives, just how cool was that to see, the Twins come to Niagara after being traded from the Kitchener Rangers? And, do you see them having a role on this team moving forward, with all the new additions that the IceDogs are going to get?
I think it's very important to have that tie-in with fans. And you look in the past with Alex Friesen from Niagara-on-the-Lake, Anthony DeFruscia from Thorold. You have to have that local content. And glad they did that. And I thought you were going to lead to Isaac Gravel there. Fenwick represented with the first goaltender with Southern Tier going, and obviously Dryden Allen. And I had a chance to speak with Dryden Allen before, obviously with Team Ontario. I'm hoping he'll be selected soon, or maybe he'll wait and see. I think the interesting thing there, and I spoke with his dad. His dad played NCAA. Oh. So you just wonder, and his dad is the goaltender scout for the Seattle Kraken, and used to be the goaltending coach with the Kraken, and of course our Buffalo Sabres, Brandon.
Right.
So Andrew Allen is the father. Dryden Allen is a defenseman, another Southern Tier player, so we'll see where he's selected as well.
And you look at the drafts over the years, Rod, some of the greatest IceDog players of all time, some of them might not even go in day one. So how much stock do you put into, those mid to late round picks and hoping that those guys develop into OHL players, not just the guys that we'll see taken today in the top 3 rounds?
No, a good point. And I think all these players, and you think that they're only 15 and 16 years old, and some of them have their days or nights ruined not being selected. And one player that I think of in particular is Mitchell Theoret, who went on to obviously be drafted in the NHL. 8th round selection by the IceDogs. Listen, your history is not determined on Friday, April 21st or Saturday, April 22nd. There's always a chance you can be selected. You can be a walk-on. There's spots for you, so don't give up on the dream. And again, these guys are young players. Some of the sizes is unbelievable. These guys are already 6 feet tall and 190 pounds at 15 and 16. It's unbelievable. And there's some smaller players but I think that the game has changed. We know the big bodies, the big guys would have been taken 10 years ago, and we're seeing some of the smaller players taken here in the 1st and 2nd round.
I mean, you mentioned the big size. The consensus was that the IceDogs were hoping, or at least we were hoping, they would take a defenseman with their 1st, 2nd round pick, taking Artem Frolov, defenseman from the Vaughan Kings, listed as 6 foot, 182 pounds as a defenseman coming in at that age. With we see it with this age group. Some of them go through massive growth spurts. There's that. There's that chance that Artem Frolov could really fill into even a bigger defenseman than he already is listed as. And, I think that's a great pick. At least myself, I think that's a great pick for the Niagara IceDogs. Listed as a top 40 talent taken in the 2nd round. I was mentioning it earlier, Brand, the show. We look at last year's draft, who we took in the 2nd round. Kevin He, who consensus is throughout the whole league, should have been taken in the 1st round, if not the top 10, and is really looking to be a promising player next year. I think that speaks a lot. I mean, lots for Artem to live up to, but
you never know.
Exactly.
And it's funny you mentioned the Vaughan Kings. I'll let you guys do a little bit of homework here. Apparently the Vaughan Kings, and you notice the last name there, had a pipeline to Russian players. There were a number of Russian players. So Frolov is considered Canadian, but I think he's born in Russia. Okay. But he's been over here long enough to be considered a Canadian non-import player. But the Vaughan Kings had, I want to say, close to 7 or 8 Russian-born players.
Wow.
So at the OHL Cup, a scout told me that. So that's hence the name Artem Frolov. And if you are Googling at home, I don't know if you guys did this as well, there is an MMA fighter named Artem Frolov.
Oh, no way.
So that is not the guy. Just when you...
Hope everyone knows that.
Yes. When you see that, they're going to say, oh, wow, we're getting an MMA fighter. That is not the Artem Frolov.
That, I guess.
Yes.
Before we let you go, Rod, I know you've been the public address announcer here for a long time with the IceDogs, even going back to the Jack days, the voice of the Niagara IceDogs in the arena. But from what you've seen from the IceDogs, the last couple years have not been, what the community and what everybody expects from this team after making the playoffs since their inception here in Niagara, and wanting to get back to that. So what have you seen from the progression for some of these players and the players that they're going to bring in, and possibly some trades in the offseason with some teams that might try to unload some overagers? How quickly can you see this thing turning around for the IceDogs and making them into a team that Niagara will be just dying for, as far as wanting to see them play postseason hockey again?
Listen, you don't have to. You just have to look at the numbers, and if you add playoffs in with Ryan Roobroeck, he had, I think, over 100 points this year. Brady Martin kind of in the second half of the season, you guys said that as well, maybe took over. But there's no doubt in my mind that Ryan Roobroeck can make an immediate impact with the IceDogs. Ethan Czata, I wouldn't call him a project. Because obviously he was selected on some draft boards later in the first round, early in the second round. He's got the size, he's got the attitude. The scouting department did their homework in that. He's going to have every opportunity to make the club, but I heard Bill Potrecz earlier say too, there's some players that might need a year in Junior B or in Tier 2 before they make the jump to the IceDogs. But I'm guessing Ryan Roobroeck will for sure make an impact with the IceDogs coming up here in 2023.
We've got the assistant general manager of the Niagara IceDogs joining us, Wes Consorti. Wes, thanks a lot for being able to come on while the draft's going on, and exciting adding 3 new players to your organization.
Yeah, we are ecstatic adding who we've added today and tonight. These guys are going to be able to step in and play right away, and we're excited to have them.
I know there was some talk about, Martin or Roobroeck, one of those two forwards were really 1A, 1B type thing. What stood out for you with Ryan Roobroeck? I know he just missed out on being granted exceptional status last year. He was going for it with Michael Misa. What was it that you liked from Ryan Roobroeck this year that made you want to select him second overall?
Ryan has elite talent for his age group. He's proven that his entire life. He is a player that is a total game breaker. He's a player that will elevate anyone he plays with. Ryan's been a top 07, born player for the last 3 years in all of Canada. We're just beyond thrilled to have Ryan in an IceDog jersey, and we're very fortunate to be a part of his journey of being a great hockey player and a great person off the ice.
And Wes, I want to ask this to kind of nip this in the butt for the fans wondering, was there any inkling at all about any sort of commitment with Ryan Roobroeck coming to Niagara, and how excited is he to be a Niagara IceDog, just like his brother Dylan was when he was drafted back in 2020 and getting engraved here in the Niagara community?
Zero issues. No issues. Ryan's been our guy the entire time, and Ryan is super excited to be here. He's super excited to get on the ice. He's more than thrilled to be a part of our group. Like I said, we're just very fortunate that we're a part of his journey, and he is an elite hockey player, and he's going to do wonderful things here.
Yeah, we can't wait to see him here in Niagara. Moving on, the 5th overall pick, Ethan Czata. He
Yep.
was at the OHL Combine. I got to see him a little bit, but what did you and your scouting staff really like out of Ethan Czata to select him 5th overall?
Ethan's been hiding in plain sight the entire year. He's a 200-foot player. He wins faceoffs. He kills penalties. He scores goals. He's a very high IQ hockey player. He fits exactly what we need. He's a great person off the ice. We've been targeting him all year, and again, we're very fortunate that we're going to be a part of his hockey journey.
And then taking 2 forwards to kind of fill out the depth there on the forward side of things. In the second round, you go with Artem Frolov on the defensive side of things. 3 guys aging out there on the D-core with Jesus, Rebo, and Keane. So taking a defenseman to, add depth to that position, how key is that, and how much are you looking forward to adding more to that D-core in the offseason?
Yeah, Frolov's game ready. He can play tomorrow. He's got a high skill set. He's physically ready to play in our league. He's going to provide steady defense. He plays proper defense, and he's a player we were targeting all year, and again, very fortunate to get him.
Assistant General Manager Wes Consorti joins us on the line. Kyle, do you have any questions for Wes?
I mean, I love the pick with Artem Frolov. I mean, you said the size too, 6 foot, 182 pounds coming in at his age. And I said the same thing with Rod Mawhood. These players coming in from the OHL draft, they have that tendency to have growth spurts in the next couple of years. You have a guy coming in with Frolov at 6 foot, 182 pounds. He's going to grow. He's going to grow into an exceptionally big-sized defenseman. That's going to be a key part to fill in the role on the defensive side of things. So I really love that pick too. And from what we got out of the scouting report from Rod Mawhood, I think that was a very exceptional pick.
No, we're just he's game ready. He can step in right away. He plays proper defense, and that's very important in our league. And he can put the puck in the net too. And again, just super excited to have him.
And last question here before we let you go, Wes. You're adding a lot of depth to this organization. Ryan Kuwabara is going to be here to implement his system at training camp. Just how excited are you to see this team's progression over the next couple of years here? We saw with Kevin He, at Zach Lavoie, Owen Flores, and just so many other guys to build around. Now bringing in some other top-end talent, not only today but tomorrow as well with the other rounds. Just how exciting of a time is this as Niagara wants to build back up the standings here?
No, it's a great day to be an Ice Dog today. It's a great day for everyone in our organization, and order's been restored in Niagara, and we're ready to go and give the fans a exciting team, and we're thrilled for what we got right now.
Bill, initial reactions to the Ice Dogs taking 2 forwards with Ryan Roobroeck and Ethan Czata, and hopefully, what we saw this year with the forward depth, or lack thereof at times. Do you think that this makes the organization better?
Well, anytime you get 2 top 5 picks, it's going to make the organization better. I think in a perfect world, they would have loved to have one of them be a defenseman, but the overall, consensus number 1D was already picked, so that's where the lottery came in a little bit there. Kind of came back to bite them, but I just talked to Darren DeDobbelaer, owner GM. He's very happy with the 2 picks that he picked. I asked him if maybe that was a little bit off the board, and he said absolutely not. They said they had Roobroeck. They always wanted Roobroeck, and the second pick overall, they wanted him as well. So they seem to be happy, and they're the ones doing it. So we'll have to see if how it works out.
Graphic. And Bill, when you look at it, the 3 overage defensemen are leaving this organization in Keane, Rebo, and Jesus. So you'd have to think that there's going to be a trade in the offseason, because obviously Captain Cato coming off that injury as the only OA, there's got to be something that's going to be done on that decor as well.
Yeah, and I asked Darren about that, and he said, they obviously they have a defenseman in mind for their second round pick tonight, and if he's there, they're going to grab him. He also mentioned the import draft as a possible way to fill the void as far as the blue liners. But absolutely, there's going to be some depth needed to be added on defense, because, like I said, they had 3 OAs last year, and they certainly need to replenish the blue line. That's for sure.
Bill Potrecz is with us from BP Sports Niagara. Bill, you've been doing this a long time. You've been covering the drafts a long time in the Ontario Hockey League.
That's because I'm old. Yeah.
I didn't say it. You said it. But, is there something that you go into every year that surprises you about, something that happens throughout the 2 days, 15 rounds? Yeah. Some of these guys aren't going to end up being OHL players, but some of them, I know you're a big Junior B guy that covers Junior B as well. So, some of these guys that might end up being Junior B players. But, where do you see the balance as far as, making sure that some of these guys end up developing in the later rounds into OHL players, or at least call-up players?
Right, absolutely. Everyone remembers Vince Dunn. Vince Dunn was a draft pick of the Niagara IceDogs, I want to say 4th or 5th round. He played his first year with the Thorold Blackhawks. He wasn't quite good enough at 16 to crack the lineup here in Niagara. He went on and won a Stanley Cup with the St. Louis Blues. He's a great player for the Seattle Kraken now. So, it's not the end of the world when a player doesn't make it as a 16-year-old. And you're going to see, not everybody can make it. I think most teams only are going to carry 2 16-year-olds. A lot of good players are developed in Junior B, and it's certainly not the end of the world when you don't make it right out of the gate.
We are joined on the line now by the TV play-by-play voice of the Niagara IceDogs on your TV Niagara. That would be the illustrious Steve Clark, and tougher than a $2 steak, as Jim Ross would say. So, Steve, just initial reactions to a couple of the top picks for the IceDogs, obviously calling all the games, the home games this season. You know, it wasn't the easiest season for the IceDogs. They went through a lot of trials and tribulations, but bringing in Ryan Roobroeck, who just missed out on being granted exceptional status last year with Michael Misa, and then Ethan Czata. So two forwards in the top five. Just what do you think that they're going to bring to this organization and adding depth to the forward group?
Well, listen. I mean, Ryan Roobroeck is very much a known quantity. There's not much more like I could really add to what has already been said. I mean, I know that his OHL Cup wasn't the strongest, and that put like the tiniest seed of doubt. And I say the tiniest seed of doubt in people. But I mean, you take a look at this player. He's 6'2". He's probably got a little bit of growing to do, seeing that his brother Dylan is 6'7". He scored over 50 goals, last year. Perhaps over 60 when you factor in other play. He's a no doubter, and he's going to be a very much a centerpiece, addition. And then when you've got Czata, I mean, I heard there were several options for the IceDogs at this 5 pick, and then it kind of got narrowed down. And I know that Czata is not like your consensus top 5 type talent or top 15 or top 20 type talent, but there's 2 things to consider. One, that has to be a must-sign position because you don't get a comp pick next year. And 2, IceDogs drafted Kevin He 25th overall last year, and that worked out pretty well. And I'm pretty sure that's where Czata was probably slotted in that area. So you're getting a very, very talented forward who can score. So now you've got a real intriguing forward core with good distribution. When you've got Roobroeck and you've got Czata, and then you add Kevin He, you've got Andrew LeBlanc, Declan Waddock, and a couple of the other guys, and Asadorian is right in there too, Lavoie. I mean, you're starting to put together a pretty solid, developing forward core.
TV play-by-play voice of the IceDogs, Steve Clark, joins us as one of his fellow Four Horsemen gentlemen. Bill Potrecz just walks in the room. That's good timing, but we'll save the Four Horsemen reference for another day. But Kyle, go ahead.
Steve, you got the pleasure of calling games last year at the home games for. We're talking about the draft, last year's rookie draft. Kevin He coming into the second round probably should have been a consensus top round pick last year in the first round. What did you like out of Kevin He's game this past season in his rookie campaign?
Well, there's a couple things. First of all, I've got to give credit to my color partner, Ed Burkholder, who picked out Kevin He as a real player in the preseason and said this is a talented young man. And there's a few things to consider here too. First of all, you tended to forget that Kevin He was 16 years old with the maturity that he displayed during the course of the season. And secondly, he just seemed the speed he has, the skill he has, and the fearlessness he has really, really progressed as the year went on. Like a lot of rookies, he went through some droughts when it came to scoring. But if you're putting up over 20 goals in this league as a 16-year-old on a team that was floundering for much of the year and had different line mates and all sorts of other dynamics going on, I mean, that's an intangible that you can't really define. If a player is able to weather that kind of adversity on and off the ice and still produce and still excel and be on the top line and get power play minutes, I mean, the sky is the limit. This is his draft year coming up. Ed Burkholder hasn't pegged as a potential first rounder. It wouldn't surprise me to see that and to see him top the 40-goal plateau. I mean, this player is very, very exciting.
And we talk about the offensive side of things, Steve. Moving on to defense, this team gave up 357 goals last year. They've got to improve on that if they want to be a playoff team next season. You lose 3 OAs in Keane, Rebo, and Jesus on the back end. Captain Cato's on the road to recovery with his surgery. Andrew Wysick will hopefully be 100%. Artem Frolov into that lineup. Just how much do you think that stabilizing that D-core and that team structure defense under Ryan Kuwabara is going to be the point of emphasis going into next season?
Well, you could tell every time you talked to Ryan Kuwabara post-game, he talked about buying into a system and structure and things like that. So obviously that's what he wants. Yeah, defensively, the IceDogs really struggled last year. There's no sugarcoating that. Lots of lapses, trouble moving the puck out of the zone, turnovers galore. I mean, that was there for everybody to see. And again, let's face it, the D-core is going to be a huge question mark coming up. Landon Cato coming off an injury-riddled couple of seasons. Andrew Wysick only played a third of the season. Jacob LeBlanc played massive minutes and really had to kind of develop as that young leader. And I do think some of that pressure did get to him towards the end of the year. No fault of his. Bronson Wright started off great and then he leveled off. So, there's all sorts of questions with the defense. And those are things that you're going to have to address through other means, whether it's, trade or import draft. I don't know a whole lot about the defenseman they drafted. Frolov, was it? But I take a look, and I've got a recency bias. I look at his size. He's about 6 feet and 195 pounds. I like that size. Good, compact size. And for something, IceDogs, when they had a Russian defenseman by the name of Alexander Mikulovich, he became a fan favorite. He was physical. He was rugged. He could move the puck. Hopefully Frolov, who does have a Russian background, though he was drafted in the OHL draft and has the, Canadian nationality, hopefully he could be in that sort of mold. So again, 16 years old, so temper your enthusiasm, but sometimes guys come into the league a lot more ready than you think and really develop well as a 16-year-old.
Steve Clark joins us on the line right now. Steve, good point there and good segue to my next question for you is the import draft. Now that the IceDogs will have a top pick in the import draft, from what you've seen over the years and the impact that those imports can have on the IceDogs roster, Daniil Gushin, Robin Denisios, and I'm sure there's some names that I'm missing that from previous years when the IceDogs have, it's a hit or miss, right? Every team hits or misses with the import draft, but just how much of a valuable tool do you think that extra layer is as far as bringing in some players that could really be beneficial for your club? We see, what Matt Bay Petrov's brought to the North Bay Battalion, but thoughts on what the IceDogs might do here with the import pick and how important that might be?
Well, I think you really nailed it when you said the imports can be hit or miss, and normally there's usually no in between. Some of these players really struggle transitioning to the North American game and really the North American and OHL lifestyle, and it shows in their play. Others step right in and are very solid contributors. Rodwin Denisian, when he came to Niagara, had a lot of detractors, and again, his defensive flaws were kind of obvious, but he was also a confident, talented player and ended up being a plus, type acquisition, for them from the import draft. So you get a guy like that, or you get a Kian Sofa, or you get obviously the Daniel Gushchin was like a gem. That's the potential you could get. I mean, the import game is kind of a game I don't really want to wade into because it's not necessarily drafting players on potential. It's drafting on agreements with agents and relationships and other things like that. And how much you're willing to potentially invest in a player that you might have for a year or two. But it's an avenue, and the IceDogs have to explore it. And I'm pretty sure Darren DeDobbelaer at the end of the year did say that he was looking at the import draft for a defenseman. So we'll just have to wait and see. But with the IceDogs having, a top 5 pick in that import draft, then definitely there's an opportunity to add an impact player.
Steve, last question here. With the defensive core being the way it is after losing the 3 away players, is there someone that a returning player, not maybe a new player, but a returning player, is there someone that sticks out to you just from calling the games and watching them over the years that really you think that can make a big impact and hope to make a big impact and a stride into the progression going into next year?
Well, it's a great question. And, Landon Cato, to me, is that guy that I look at. He has to be healthy. And I know those are factors, beyond his control. But having got to know Cato a little bit, and I remember running into him in the offseason before the season started, how excited he was about the captaincy and how excited he was about all the new acquisitions that the IceDogs made. And then it just simply all fell apart on the ice for him and for the IceDogs. He never could get healthy. You could see him try a couple times in the second half of the season, and then he shut it down, probably rightfully so. In a lost season, there's no need for him to play through injury and further damage, his career, with a more serious injury. He's the person I'm really, really looking at, and it's more of a hope than it is an expectation. I just hope that he stays healthy for the whole year and gives the IceDogs 60 to 68 games and gives people a chance to demonstrate what sort of leader that he is. He's a pleasant young man. He's an affable young man. He's obviously built very, very well in terms of size, but it's very, very difficult to lead from the sidelines when you're not in the locker room wearing the uniform ready to play. And that's no knock on him. That's just the reality of the situation. So it's him who's the one I'm looking for, and I just hope that he stays healthy and gives the IceDogs the type of production and demonstrates the type of ability that he has in the last year of his OHL career.
With his This Week in IceDogs history, and that is Ted Lehman of Country 89.1. Ted, thanks a lot for joining us, and I know this isn't your first rodeo in the draft, so thanks a lot.
Well, there's been a lot of history in the draft room over the years, too. So, I mean, including now part of the IceDogs brain trust in Andrew Fritsch when he became an IceDogs member.
Exactly. So, from what you've seen over the years, Ted, and I've got all the picks here for the Niagara IceDogs over the years. You've been here for most of all of them. So, going back to its inception, I know you talk a lot about getting those guys that are going to be 5-year IceDogs. You talk about, those guys at the beginning that really set that foundation. How important is a day like this and a weekend like this for wanting to build that core of players that are going to be IceDogs for the next 3, 4, 5 years?
Well, one of the things that's changed over the years is you don't get as many 5-year players as you once did. Because with the movement going on, the way players get moved, I mean, I defy you to find a 5-year London Knight. Because you're a commodity and you're going to get moved at some point in time, or you're going to be off to the next level, or you're going to be doing something else. So it's a little bit more difficult than it was way back when. There's very few Andrew Agassinos you're going to find over the years on just about any team in the OHL.
And when you're looking at mid to late round picks, Ted, I think we asked you this last year, but, some of those guys might not pan out into OHL players. Some might be junior B, some might be call-ups. But what do you think over the years from what you've seen from the IceDogs as just some of the names that stick out to you that, were late round picks that ended up being key parts of the IceDogs and the reason why that this draft is so important even in day 2 when you get to rounds 4 to 15?
Give you 2 names, Mitch Theoret and Mike Schwint, who goes down in history as scoring the second first goal of the year ever. It did in the IceDogs' second year. Then he went over 300 games before he got his next goal. But he was incredibly important defenseman. He was one of those stay-at-home, heart and soul kind of guys. And he had a nice long career. He moved on to the Sault Ste. Marie Greyhounds. Mitch Theoret, who's now a professional caddy these days in the world of golf, he was a late pick and came through. And not only did he come through for the IceDogs, score one of the biggest overtime goals in an Eastern Conference series against the Ottawa 67s, but then he went on to give the IceDogs some capital as he was moved out to the Barrie Colts. And we know the return on that trade. So for the IceDogs, it's a matter of getting those players. But if you look at tonight's draft even, and you look away from the IceDogs for a sec, one of the first things that caught my attention was Ottawa grabbing Brustevich, whose brother, of course, plays for the Kitchener Rangers. Now, what makes that more interesting is take a look at your pick. Ottawa got it at number 22, which, by the way, is a first-rounder, which means if he becomes what's known as a defected player, decides he may want to play on another team like, maybe the Kitchener Rangers, next year Ottawa would get a compensatory pick, and they would end up with a second pick in the first round, plus whatever they're able to pry away from the Ottawa 67s, whatever they're able to get away from the Kitchener Rangers. So there's so much intrigue that goes into these. I mean, how many people have been talking about the fact of Ryan Roobroeck being the pick when Dylan was an IceDogs pick and then was moved on to the Oshawa Generals? It's a fun night for that reason, because when you get ink to paper, then you get all excited. Right now, it's just a matter of what will the future look like.
Ted Lehman, the radio voice of the Niagara IceDogs on Country 89.1 is with us here on the line. Ted, when you look at Matt Schaefer going first overall to the Erie Otters yesterday, wasn't meant to be here for the Niagara IceDogs with the Johnny Schaefer comparison. You were here for Johnny Schaefer's career. What is it about that family that you think that Matt's going to be, or why he went first overall and just Johnny's time here in Niagara as an OHLer?
2 words: good people. And that's all they are. And I mean, I'll tell this story. The entire Schaefer family, we've talked so many times about Adam Agutter, his 4-year battle that he won with brain cancer, and Elijah Roberts was there, and Akil Thomas was there, and so many of the IceDogs players, the entire family adopted the Agutter family. But being in the greater Hamilton area, the Schaefers jumped on, and I can tell the story now. Todd Schaefer called me in the middle of a week and said, Ted, is there anything extra we can do for the family? Can we give Tanya and can we give Jay some time off? Can we be there for him? Can we go to McMaster Children's Hospital and just hang out with them and give them a break from having to spend 24/7 there? So they're just incredibly really nice people, and I've seen them since then. They actually showed up to watch the older of the Exeter boys play baseball in a tournament. So they're just really amazingly nice people. And Johnny Schaefer, again, was just one of those players who had a really nice career in the OHL, had a nice career at U Sports as well. And he just a good person.
And you saw this IceDog team all year, Ted, being able to call those games. How far away do you think that they are from being that contending team again? Because we talked about earlier on the show, Sarnia Sting going to their first ever Western Conference final. The IceDogs having 2 Eastern Conference championships under their belt in the last, 12, 13 years here. Is the Niagara IceDogs fan base spoiled? I know you've brought that up on your show. If maybe, the IceDogs haven't gone through a couple of those down years. Now they've experienced it. The passionate fan base, they want playoff hockey back here in Niagara. With the 3 picks tonight, hopefully making the opening day lineup, just how competitive do you think that this team can be as they want to build back up the standings?
It's junior hockey. You can turn it around in a heartbeat. Or you can be out in the desert. There's so many things that have to go into it. They've already put the steps in place. You get the impression Ryan Kouabara is going to be a part of the answer. But it's such an interesting situation because when I look back, of course, you know me, I get into numbers. And this was precipitated by hearing a stat on one of the playoff games about the playoff record of the North Bay Battalion, which is under 500. In the postseason, which I can throw a question at both of you. The IceDogs this year will be eclipsed, and we talked about it on the broadcast, because they've been tied for the most number of playoff series wins in all the teams in the East since they came into the OHL. They had 13 of them. Now, since Marty Williamson was let go, they've had 2 wins since then, so it shows you how things can turn really quickly. But that being true, if I told you the IceDogs played 120 playoff games until, the current situation they've had for the last few years, if I asked you the question, how many of those 120 games did they win, what would your best guess be? So put you on the spot. Kyle, 120, how many did the IceDogs win?
80?
I'll say half.
You nailed it. 60.
Oh, okay.
60. And it's really funny when you get onto the postseason and people get all excited, about what can happen. And it's amazing what can happen. You can have years like the IceDogs had in 2016 when they went into the finals against the London Knights and they had a 12-1 record. So they ended up losing in the OHL Championship Series, went out with a record of 12-5. So hockey's a cruel game. The Stanley Cup, as they say, is the toughest trophy to win. You can put the OHL Championship there, or the Q, or the Dub, or the Memorial Cup. It's just, it's such a tough, it's a tough slog to go through, and so many things have to break your way. So for the IceDogs, it'll depend. Did they just get another Kevin He? Did they get a player that nobody else was thinking about? You have no idea. And we're not going to know next year how well they did this year in the draft. We're going to know in 2 years how well they did with the draft.
Ted Lehman from Country 89.1, longtime IceDogs radio play-by-play voice, joins us here. Ted, you've talked to Darren DeDobbelaer, the exit interview that we played on our show. What have you seen from what Darren DeDobbelaer has said and what he's implementing here in Niagara that makes you believe that, this organization is on the right path and they have a plan as they continue to build this thing? Because they haven't even been here for a full calendar year yet, so they're still getting things in place. But from what you've talked with Darren DeDobbelaer, just how excited are you about the future?
Well, really excited, because the one thing we said last year is the only thing you guaranteed when new people come into this league, they're going to make mistakes, and they're going to have to learn from the mistakes, and we're going to have to watch to see what kind of learning curve has happened there. But I get an impression, and I was introduced to him through other people, and the impression I got from them is kind of marked much differently by what I've seen. I think this man, he just proved it with the Memorial Cup bid, will spend the money because he hates losing.
Yeah.
And I think that's an important trait. is you're going to get to the point where if it takes extra resources to get it done, I think the extra resources are going to be there. I think you're going to see, I'm not going to talk wins and losses, but you're going to see a much different season from an off-ice situation this year as opposed to what you saw last year. There's no way it can't be different from what happened this past year.
Exactly. Kyle, do you have anything for our guest before he takes off?
Well, you nailed on the head with could Ethan Czata be another Kevin He, right? We saw what happened with the pick last year that no one was really thinking about. Kevin He probably, consensus should have been in the first round last year. We took him at second, or 25th overall. This year in our second round, we're taking in 28th overall. First time, and actually now here's a history lesson for you. First 28th overall pick for the Niagara IceDogs in history. But Artem Frolov from the Vaughan Kings, a 6 foot, 182-pound defenseman. Anything you've heard about Artem Frolov's game and maybe something you're excited about it with him?
Well, if you were looking for a prototypical player from a talent perspective and from a playing perspective, the IceDogs would need, based on what happened last year, it would be a keep your end clean defenseman. And that's what he comes in as. I don't think we're going to see Ty Nelson kind of goal scoring, but I think what we're going to see is somebody who's going to want to make sure that it's not easy access towards the goal and towards the prime scoring areas. It's the toughest position to learn. Exactly. It really is. I mean, you make it akin to a defensive back in football. You have to do everything the offense is doing at the same speed, only you have to do it in reverse. And you have to be one step ahead of everything that's going. It's such a heady position. It's the hardest one to learn, and it's where the IceDogs suffered the most last year in terms of what happened to the team.
And you look at the goals against, Ted. I mean, last year with the IceDogs, they gave up 357 goals in the 68 games. That's a lot of goals to be giving up. And you'd think that they're working on that decor because they have 3 players aging out in Jesus, Rebo, and Keane. So adding a defenseman, I think, was key. And like you've mentioned to me off air before, during the season, there's going to be some teams that are contending right now that are going to need to unload some overage players in the offseason. And the IceDogs could take advantage of that and acquire a very good overage player, whether that be on forward or defense, to really stabilize whether that's the D-core or the forward core.
First time I ever saw it with overagers was when I first met Marty Williamson. And now he wasn't officially the GM back then, but what did Barry end up doing that season? They grabbed 2 overagers from the Belleville Bulls, who just happened to be on their top line. Mm-hmm. So it's the equivalent if he grabbed Cardwell and Vierling this year, and he grabbed Cameron and Pither, and all of a sudden a Fair to Midland team became a juggernaut. So you can have it happen there. It's a matter of how you play the game, because when you acquire overagers, how much are you giving up? What kind of capital does it cost you to get there? I think that's going to be one of the biggest improvements we're going to see in Darren DeDobbelaer 2.0 this year will be, I think, trades that are going to be made and how they're going to be made. Because if you look at even just the one move that got made in this draft, trading a draft pick to get one in 2026, if you look at a 2026, I think there's 8 picks coming up in that draft. And, oh, by the way, 2026 is the next year you're going to be looking at a Memorial Cup bid.
Yeah, exactly. And even the year before, 2025, there in the first couple of rounds, you got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 picks in the first 5 rounds. So I mean,
it's capital.
Yeah,
it's capital, and it's the reason why. Again, I'm just switching sports. Why Major League Baseball teams set up a great farm system. So when it comes time to go for it, you can give up some players that haven't proven anything at the major league level, and you can get major league players for them. So it's really this, other than calling the games, this is my favorite time, is watching what goes on at the draft. So far it's been pretty tame. I'm looking forward to some fun tomorrow. I think they had a plan. I think they knew what they were going to go do, and I think they've accomplished what they want to do. Agree, disagree, that's the fun part about this game. You can sit back and have a good time with what they've done. But just watch what goes on when you get into day number 2 tomorrow, when they start lobbying for the players that a particular scout is going for as opposed to another scout, unless they've all calmed down. I don't believe that. It's the greatest kind of shopping experience you get in hockey, is watching these guys go at it.
A great dynamic for sure. And speaking of day 2, Ted, hopefully we can have you back on tomorrow for some analysis. It's going to be another long day for the second portion of the OHL draft. So thank you very much to Ted Lehman, the IceDogs radio voice. on Country 89.1. Ted, thanks so much for doing this, and we look forward to talking again. And thank you for all season long with your This Week in IceDogs history segments. It was Kyle's favorite part of every single week, and I know a lot of our listeners really enjoyed going back in time and reliving some of those great moments as to why we all love the Niagara IceDogs.
Well, we're into the middle of some great history right now, and right now for this season, all we got is history.
We're pleased to welcome one of the assistant coaches of the Niagara IceDogs, Mr. Damon Racicot, also known as Doc. Doc, good to have you on the show for the first time. I know you've been here all year, but glad to finally have you on and making your debut for such an important live special here.
Thanks, Brandon.
All right. So, Doc, can you just give us a little bit of background on, you being an assistant coach for this team and how you've enjoyed your first year in Niagara?
Oh, wow. Well, I've thoroughly enjoyed my time in Niagara. Whole new league, whole new group of people. The only person I knew coming here was Darren. I've been with Darren for 7 years, helping him in Brantford. I'm from Ingersoll, and this whole region has just been great. My family has liked it here, and I've enjoyed it here.
And working alongside with Brantford and then coming up here to Niagara, just how was that transition, working as a coach with them and, being familiar with some of the players that ended up getting called up during the season here with Niagara, having that affiliation with Brantford and having so many people that have that Brantford connection. Just how important was that for you as a coach for the players and as well to familiar with some coaches and other people around the organization?
Yeah, this year especially was important because we had some transition, not only with players but with coaches. And we were able to bring a Brantford coach here to help us partway through the season, which was a huge asset to us when we needed it. Brantford's a great hockey town, and they're fortunate to get their own team this year.
And when you look at this young roster, Damon Racicot, assistant coach of the IceDogs, is with us. What did you see? I know it was a lot of growing pains this season, and obviously the IceDogs are looking to build on what they've done this year and move back up the standings. What do you see from some of those young players, and as far as them progressing in that full 200-foot game, getting adjusted to the OHL level, and just so many players that had to make adjustments in all aspects of their game? What did you see from the bench and off the ice that makes you believe that some of these players are going to take a jump in the offseason with natural growth as well?
Mm-hmm. Well, it was abundantly clear from the beginning that we had some work to do, both on and off the ice. We were very fortunate in that our young guys, like Kevin He, matured quickly. By the end of the year, they were playing key roles for us. And you know what? If we can get young guys to continue to adapt to the league as fast as they did, we'll be in good shape.
And I'm not going to ask you a full scouting report on the three guys that we brought in, but just how exciting of a time is this for the organization, to bring in, 3 impact players and then hopefully more going into tomorrow? Just how excited are you to get to know these young men and get working with them as as they make that jump to the OHL? It's going to be, an exciting time for them, but also, a stressful time for them. And how are you going to try to, make them as comfortable as possible as they try to make that leap to the next level of hockey?
Sure, you said it, Brandon. Part of this journey is getting comfortable at the next step. And one of the roles of an assistant coach in this league is to help in that transition. So, yeah, I'm excited about it. I was telling my wife this morning it felt like Christmas morning, and I was getting a gift today.
Yeah, and you ended up getting 3 gifts, maybe one more. But you mentioned that. Just how important is that growing them as young men off the ice, too? Because they're going to go on. Some of them are going to go on to have pro hockey careers, but some of them are going to go into other walks of life as young men and as they grow into adults. So how important is that to be a mentor and a stable presence for them? They're going to go through ups and downs. They're going to go through hard times like they did this year. Just how important was that for you, and how rewarding is that to kind of be that mentor for these young men and developing minds as you want to make them grow them into mature young men that are going to be able to go through some adversities in their life?
Sure, it's really important. And with this league, with the scholarship package that these older kids get, it's great to see that they are starting to take advantage of it. Yeah, we spent a lot of time talking with the 18, 19, 20-year-olds about what if you don't have a pro hockey career? What are you going to do? And for some of these kids, it's a bit of an adjustment of thought. I did a lot of school visits. We did 48 school visits with the kids this year. And one of the questions I would often ask them is, what are you going to do if it doesn't work out as a pro hockey player? And you'd be surprised at how many 19, 20-year-olds have not really spent a lot of time thinking about their future.
Damon Racicot, assistant coach of the IceDogs, joins us, and that's very important as well. Kyle, do you have any I'll give you last question to Doc here.
Well, we touched with a bunch of other guys. We touched briefly on Artem Frolov, who was the defenseman in our second-round pick. I often said, second-round picks could be a steal. I often mentioned, this is going to tie into my question, Kevin He last year taking a number 25. We had 28 this year. What did you like out of Kevin He this year? Obviously shown not only this organization in that he was a steal in the draft where we took him and probably could have been a first-round pick, but what did you like out of Kevin mostly this year when it came to his game and how he's developed so far from his first year in the OHL?
Kevin brings a lot to our team. He not only is an outstanding young man, he's very mature. His work ethic is bar none above everybody else. He's committed, he's dedicated. I can't say enough things about his core values. What he brings to the ice is speed. He's probably the fastest guy in the league this year as a 16-year-old. And to watch him get puck confidence, body confidence as the year went on was exciting for a coaching staff. And I hope the fans of Niagara can appreciate the gift that he brings to our team.
And you know what? I'm going to put you on the spot, Doug. I know I gave Kyle last question, but I just had something pop in my head. With the 3 overagers going out the door, and you talk about leadership and, being a mentorship as well, with Keane, Rebo, and Jesus leaving that locker room, Captain Cato recovering from surgery, just how important is that for those guys in the room currently to take that next step as leaders in this offseason, going into next season, and making sure that you have a good quality leadership core, a solid culture, a healthy culture in there as you go into next season? And are there a few players that you can see, or if not specific, a group of players that you think are going to take the next step in being leaders next year?
Mm-hmm. That's a good point, Brandon. We are losing 3 very mature hockey players and outstanding young men. We have a crew this year that are coming up and they're maturing. This year was good for them. The adversity was good for them in a weird kind of way. But I think you're going to see 5 or 6 kids that are ready to step into that role. Going forward, even this draft today, we're looking at character players. It takes a lot more than skill to play on the Niagara IceDogs, and that's very important to us.
Experience a new way to play daily fantasy sports and esports on Thrive Fantasy. Thrive's game concept revolves around player props, which are simple over-unders on player stats. There are contests for traditional sports including the NFL, NBA, MLB, PGA, and cricket, as well as esports titles including CSGO, Dota 2, League of Legends, and more coming soon. Here's how to play. Choose your lineup of over-unders for top-tier athletes that have the biggest impact on the game. Each prop has a fantasy point total based on how likely it is to hit. The more points the selection is worth, the riskier it is. Rack up the most points and win a share of the prize pool. Thrive is awarded over $2 million in cash, so come and prop up today.
Hey, this is Landon Cato. Hey, it's Juan Copeland. This is Kevin He. This is Zach Lavoie. It's Owen Flores. You're listening to the Dog Pound Podcast, the official podcast of the Niagara IceDogs.
Greatest segue of all time just happened on the show. We're pleased to be joined now by the 57th overall pick in 2009 by the Niagara IceDogs, or in the OHL draft, and that was Andrew Fritsch. Thank you very much for joining us, Andrew, and I know you're assistant coach with the IceDogs now, but just how exciting can you even remember what this day was like when you were drafted in the 3rd round back in 2009? Just what was that moment like for you, getting to that next level in your hockey career?
Yeah, first off, thanks for having me, guys. I remember that day like it was yesterday, honestly. So much anticipation, obviously. You kind of dream of that to start. Obviously, every kid dreams of playing in the NHL, but then you start looking towards the OHL, and that's a dream of yours. And then the uncertainty of where you were going to go. And then I just remember Dave Brown and his management staff took a timeout on the pick, and then they called my name. And obviously from there, I was excited to get down to Niagara and meet everybody. And again, I remember that like it was yesterday. So one of the best days of my hockey career.
And, you know, as a third-round pick, and you look at, you know, day 2 tomorrow, these players aren't going to be defined to where they're picked. Some guys that are drafted in the first round might not even end up panning out in anything. How much do you let the guys know, you know, no matter where you're picked, to make sure that you come in with the right attitude, that, you know, if you want to work hard enough, you can attain your dream of being an OHL player, even as third-round pick to a 15th-round pick, or even as a top 5 pick in the OHL?
Yeah, I think you need that motivation. I'll tell you this, and it was for me, and it's the same for every kid. You always think you're going to go higher, especially in the OHL draft, even the NHL draft. But I can use my example of being a late third-round pick. I didn't think I was going to be a third-round pick. I thought it'd be higher. So you can use that as motivation, and then I guess what I would communicate with them is, again, you got to use that as motivation. It doesn't matter what pick you are. If you come to camp and you work as hard as you can, you earn a spot, you'll get a spot. So I think at the end of the day, you just can control your work ethic and then see what happens from there.
Andrew Fritsch joins us right now on the line, the assistant coach of the IceDogs and IceDogs alumni. Andrew, what did you enjoy this year about being back in Niagara, being back in the community, and being an assistant coach and being a mentor for these young men, because you've been through this as an OHL player? Just how much have you enjoyed the experience on and off the ice with the kids and being back in the Niagara community?
Well, I've enjoyed it a ton, honestly. I enjoyed my year and 2 months here in Niagara. I met a lot of good people, had a great billet family. I'm still close with them. So that was awesome when I made the decision to join the staff. And then as far as the everyday stuff at the rink, to me, it's the mentorship of the players and giving them little tips and experiences I've been through in the league, good or bad. Just I think you can just have them rely on you and, again, help them any way possible. Then on the ice stuff, I learned a lot as well as a first-time coach in this league. You're a player and you think you know what's going on behind the scenes with the coaching staff, but you really don't. So I was thankful enough to learn under everybody we had here. And, again, I'm still trying to learn as a coach so I can provide these kids, more importantly, any insight, any motivation, any tricks or whatever I need to for them to grow as hockey players and as people.
And you played back at the Jack. You didn't get a chance to play here as an ice dog at the Meridian Centre, but just, you know, going back to that old rink, just how exciting, you know, unfortunately the time has come for that rink to, you know, be torn down. But what is something that sticks out to you as probably the best memory back at the Jack, and just wanting this IceDogs team to get back to the playoffs and wanting those great playoff atmospheres that we had in Niagara all those years in the, you know, the 2010s era and back at the Jack? Just looking back on that time, is there something that sticks out to you about, you know, best memories?
Yeah, I think for me, first off, what a rink for me to get better in, because it was so small. I came in as a 16-year-old, light, small, just like any other 16-year-old, and you had to make quick plays. So my biggest memory would have been my first OHL game with friends and family there, and I scored the first goal of that season. So to be able to get it out of the way in the Jack, and we all know that rink, loud as hell, great atmosphere, just like it is here at the Meridian, but that's probably my biggest memory from that, is the first game, first goal in front of friends and family, and just the excitement I had, but more importantly, my family had. And then I think we ended up losing that game, but still, that was a good year and great experience to be able to play in that arena.
Andrew Fritsch here, Niagara IceDogs assistant coach and Niagara IceDogs alumni. I brought it up with Doc when he was here not too long ago. We took this year in the second round Arden Frolov. Second-round pick, defenseman, 6 foot, 182 pounds. Guy's going to be here to do what he needs to do on the defensive court. But I also mentioned last year's second-round pick, number 25, Kevin He, who, in all consensus, he should have probably been in the first round last year, and we got him in a steal at 25 in the second round. What did you like out of Kevin He's game this year, now being an assistant coach and able to, be that assistant coach to Kevin? And what was some parts of his game that you liked the most?
Well, I think the obvious would be his speed, his work ethic, and, of course, his shot. What impressed me the most with Kevin was his maturity off the ice and on the ice as a 16-year-old. Like, that was very impressive. The goals are nice. All the even strength goals. He had 0 power play goals as a 16-year-old, and he went and scored 21 or whatever it was. Right. That's insane to me. So with Kevin just growing and getting more confidence in the league next year, he's obviously a huge piece of our team, and we'll see what happens with him. I don't want to put expectations on him, but he's going to be a very good player in this league for a while, and we're very lucky to have Kevin He as a Niagara IceDog.
And lastly for you, Andrew, like, just when you look at this roster and the growing pains that they went through this year, how important was it to make sure that, you know, you were there for them during the hard times, to make sure that they were, you know, staying the course, knowing that there's a long-term plan here, going through some adversity as young men that are still, you know, developing minds, and they're going to go through adversity in their life, and you've been there as an OHL player for them. So just what do you think that the growing pains of this year, how is that going to help them as they move forward and want to be that contending team again, making sure that they're excited about next year's training camp coming in shape, making sure that they do all the right things on and off the ice?
Yeah, I mean, obviously we know it was a long season and the wins weren't there. Obviously, when you're not winning, you can get down and stuff like that. So I think part of my job as assistant coach, skills coach, is just to communicate with them, talk to them, see how they're feeling, and at the end of the day, when they're down, talk to them about it. Try to give them light at the end of the tunnel. I've been there as a player. When you're losing, it sucks. Everything sucks. Negative energy, negative this. But it's how you respond. And I think all our players know that. We're trending in the right direction. Obviously, we've picked 4 really good players so far today. So I think we're excited about that. And, again, we're going to be a younger team, and we're going to have to work for everything we get. But obviously, the future's looking bright, but it's still going to take some time. And, yeah, I think overall everybody will be excited, and the players we do have coming back are good hockey players. So we're excited to get back.
And I'll leave you with this thought. We had Landon Cato on, the captain of the IceDogs, a few weeks ago, and he talked about how Andrew Fritsch still has a few more years in him in the league. He could still play, and he still shows you guys up in practice. So how much have you enjoyed that, you know, having that IceDog crest and going out there and showing these kids that, you know what, I might be out of the league, but I still got it, and having that fun competitiveness with those guys and building those positive relationships.
Yeah, I mean, for a while there, Agustinelli, Cato, and some of the injured guys who weren't going to return, but we did some skill stuff, and then we'd always finish with a little condition, and the condition we would do is 3-on-3. So I like to think I still have it. I thank Cato for the kind words. It's a lot of fun to do that with them, and kind of maybe, I don't know, I think I work too hard out there. Maybe that's why I'm competitive and I don't want to lose, but it's a blast. I love being out there with them like that, and as part of being the skills coach is to kind of show them a couple different things. So I'm glad I still have it a little bit, and I'm glad they think that as well. It's been awesome.
We're going to be joined by the owner and general manager of the Niagara IceDogs, Mr. Darren DeDobbelaer. And Darren, thank you very much for taking the time to come on this morning. I know it's been an exciting time for your staff and your organization. And I know you're ready to really put your stamp on this team, having this first full draft. You know, you came in a little bit late last year and didn't really get in front of a lot of players that you had wanted to. So just how excited are you now to really, with these picks that you've made yesterday and even going into today, to really, you know, get going with the plan of what you want for this organization?
First of all, I'd like to thank you for your support. You guys have been outstanding here, and thank you for having me on the show today. You know, we're really excited. Last year, my wife and I only bought the team on, you know, the 7th of July, so we never really got a chance to bring, you know, the players and their parents and the agents to this beautiful facility. And, you know, every player, even Czata, you know, first time he saw it yesterday, and his parents were like starstruck. They said, "Holy cow, this is NHL," which it is. So it's a big drawing point for us to get them in here. So Wes and Adam and I and all the scouts, we've worked really hard to get the players here and show them what we have and show them what we have to offer, and let them know that moving forward we're going to be a much more successful team.
Kyle, do you have any questions for Darren as far as, you know, the draft picks from yesterday and just the, you know, how this whole process is going?
Taking Artem Frolov with the second pick yesterday, being from the Vaughan Kings, now we just seen the 4th round pick from the Vaughan Kings as well. I'm assuming we had our scouts doing their work and doing their due diligence with the Vaughan Kings. What do you see in both those players, not only Artem Frolov, but now our 4th round pick from the Vaughan Kings?
So Frolov is, like Darryl Woodley from Central Scouting said when they announced the pick yesterday, he is, next to Schaefer, he's the most ready D in the league and to play. And in the draft, to play. So, with only 12 wins last year, we need players that can play today. We can't wait right now. So, he was a player we really targeted. He's mature. He's a good puck mover. He's a big body. He's somebody that we know can step into our lineup immediately.
And Darren DeDobbelaer, owner of the IceDogs, joins us. Darren, when you look at the first couple of picks there, Ryan Roobroeck, his brother was drafted as an IceDog. He was battling with Michael Misa last year for the exceptional status, didn't get it, and then this year going into his actual draft year. Just what did you guys really see out of him that you wanted to select him second overall, and what did you really think that he's going to bring to this organization, right away going into training camp?
Roobroeck's he's an elite player. He's got a really high ceiling. He's a 3-year player. He's a late birth. We've liked him all along. He's been the consensus number one for the last 3 years. Schaefer really exploded this year. But to me, it was still a toss-up between Roobroeck and Schaefer. So we've liked Roobroeck all along. He scored over 100 goals this year, including exhibition, playoff, 3 in the Junior B League. His ceiling is outstanding. If we can get a good puck transporter, somebody to move the puck for him, he will put it in the net. His ceiling is amazingly high, and we're really excited to have him.
And you're going to have a lot of options this offseason, whether that be with trades, acquiring overage players from some of these contending teams that are going to have an abundance of overage players, whether that be, other moves and things like that. Just how excited are you about, the roster that you're going to assemble for the fall in the training camp? Like, just how much are you looking forward to adding depth to this team and making sure that they're competitive next year to make that playoff run?
We're really excited about that. And again, it's a process. We've been working for 12 months for this year's roster, and we're starting to work on the following year roster. So, again, we know what we need. And, we still have a lot of good pieces. And if they take the next step, Kevin, Michaud, all those guys, if they take the next step, Lavoie, there's just a lot of talent there. We had 4 20-goal scorers last year. Augustinelli, he would have been a 20-goal scorer if he would have been with us the whole season, would have had more opportunity. So we're really excited. Our goalie you got put on the draft list, the NHL draft list, Flo, got put on the draft list, so we're excited about that. So we have a lot of pieces. We just, it's a great league, and everybody's good, so we just need to improve on what we've got.
Darren DeDobbelaer's with us. Darren, a few more questions for you. First off, how much do you think that going through that process will help you the next time that it does come back to Ontario and hoping to bid again in 2027? Just, thoughts on that whole process and what you've learned from it for the next time.
I thought it was great. My team around me was outstanding. Walter, Megan, everyone was just great. Doug Hamilton. We had a follow-up call about a week after the announcement with the CHL, and we asked them what we did wrong, what we did that we didn't get the bid. And they just thought everything was spectacular. We had a couple of minor deficiencies that are very easy fixes moving forward, and I guarantee it right now as the words are coming out of my mouth, we are applying again when it comes around in 3 years. And we are very, very hopeful, very excited that we will get it. They basically told us not what we did wrong. They said all 4 bids were actually outstanding, the 4 best bids they've seen in a long time, and it was a tough decision. So they told us what we did wrong, and if we get the support of the community, the region, the city, and I have my same team again, we're pretty confident we'll get it next time.
And last question, just how exciting has it been for you to have your whole scouting staff, your coaching staff, everybody here, culminating for the OHL draft, and just being able to bring everybody together after they've worked so hard all year, making sure that, that this draft is going to be a successful one for the IceDogs, being so important with the 2 top 5 picks, and making sure that the players you're bringing in are the right players, not only on the ice but off the ice, for the culture that you guys are trying to build. Just how important has that been?
You know what? That's awesome you said that, because that's something we worked really hard on. Wes was calling guidance counselors. I was calling their off-ice trainers. We were calling teammates. Adam was calling teammates of players. And we were, you can swing and miss a lot too, but we've really done our homework. We didn't just pick the most talented player on the ice. We picked somebody that we thought would fill into our role. And with, our captain, Cato, and, he had a big influence too on what we're doing and how we're trying to rebuild the culture and the brand here. So we're really excited. And, the support of you guys, the support of the Standard, the radio station, just everybody has just been outstanding. And it's been, 8 months since Michelle and I bought this team, and I'm still starstruck. I can't believe I'm here, and I can't believe the support I'm getting from everybody.
We're joined on the line right now by IceDogs standout rookie Kevin He. Kevin, thanks a lot for coming on this morning. I know it's an early morning for all of us, but being the draft, first question, you were drafted last year, obviously. Just what was that moment like for you when you finally got the call that you were coming to Niagara, and just the lead up to that, just the lead up of the whole draft experience, just looking back on it now, how was that whole process for you?
Yeah, it was amazing. I think on draft night, I got to celebrate with all my family. My family was watching there, and I was calling a few of my buddies too that was going into the draft as well, and just wishing them the best of luck. And it's definitely a surreal moment when you get that call from the GM, and they're congratulating you on getting drafted.
And was there anybody in this year's draft that has gone so far that maybe you've played with, or that friend of yours, or anybody that you were really looking forward to seeing them drafted?
Right, I got a couple guys. I think our second round pick, Frolov. I was skating with him last night actually as he got drafted.
No way.
So I was skating with him, and we had the computer set up, and everyone was just watching the draft. And when we got drafted, I was right there with him.
That's incredible.
Right. And then I think this morning we took Ivan Galyanov.
Yep.
He goes to my school, so I skate with him every morning as well. So I'll see him next week in the morning. I'll congratulate him in person as well. So yeah, I know quite a few guys in the 07 loops. I have a brother, and he's been playing with those guys, and I know quite a few of the 07s for sure.
IceDogs rookie Kevin He joins us on the line.
But Kev, after having an impressive rookie season last year, what are you most excited about going into next year, and what do you look to improve on with your game going into next year?
Right, I think my physicality. I think that physical part of the game. I think I know I have the skill sets and I have a good foundation, but I think towards the summer I've been working on getting faster, getting stronger, and really knowing the game in all areas and improving my overall strength in this game for sure.
And Kev, just you're already mature. You're a mature young man already, and I know you've already tried to take a step in a leadership role already as a first-year player, but
right.
How are you planning on reaching out to? I know you were skating with Frolov last night as he was drafted, but are you planning on reaching out to the draftees either from last night or today, and just welcoming them to the whole process? And you being a rookie last year, you're fresh, knowing what that situation was like as a rookie coming in, and just how much are you going to offer up your advice and support to those guys?
Right, I think I tried calling most of our guys that got drafted. If they couldn't call, I sent them a text, congratulating them and letting them know this is my number if they have any questions and things they want to ask. I'm always here to help, and they have my number for sure.
I got to bring up something here, Kev, because Landon Cato called you out on our show a couple weeks back when we had him on about when you asked him his favorite Kevin He moment, and he had to expose you and bring up the whole on ice or the training day fiasco where you had a big lunch and you ended up not feeling so good after that, after you ate and then did the training and got the pretty boy treatment the rest of the day. So do you want to respond to anything that Captain Cato said about that situation, and do you want to clear anything up?
Not really. I don't have Captain Cato. I'll just leave it at that. That was a pretty funny moment for sure, though.
Yeah, that was one of those rookie growing pains for sure.
Hey,
I guess
you get to be the star of our off-ice stuff, so it's all right. It makes up for it.
Yeah, the whole answering questions twice thing. Captain Cato said, maybe you got to come up with another gimmick next year, but it's been fun, and you'll come up with something.
Mic me up next year.
Yeah, we're definitely going to do the mic'd up stuff for sure. We'll get Kevin He mic'd up, and we still got to talk to you in the summer as well. But
right.
Just as you saw this team grow near the end of the season and guys take a step in development, just what was it about Coach K, Coach Coolbar's system, and the other assistant coaches that when things weren't going well and you weren't winning games, that you guys still had a positive mindset and are trusting the process of what's to come here as you guys, want to build back up, and understanding that there's a long-term goal and a long-term plan with this team?
Right, I think you mentioned the word trust, and that's a big thing for sure. I think just believing in the coaches, believing in the staff, and there's obviously a lot of noise, a lot of talk going outside the organization, but there's the things that we can control, and we have the team and we have the teammates, and everyone's just really sticking together, and like you said before, trusting the process. And that's a huge part moving into this offseason and for next year.
Kyle, I'll let you have the last question for Kev today.
Last question for Kev. I'm honored. Kev, we're going into next year's training camp. I mentioned it earlier in the show and even last night. It's looking to be a very competitive camp, not only in the forward side but the defensive side. You got to experience your first training camp last year. What excites you the most about this coming training camp, and with the new crop of rookies coming in, that's got to get you excited for the potential of this team now being and have the tools in place to be one competitive team next year?
100%. I think, one thing that excites me most is getting, to see everyone coming back and see what they've done in the off season, and knowing that we have, new rookies, new guys are going to push us, and we got to be able to maintain ourselves, like the high standard we set for ourselves. And just know, these newcomers, these rookies are going to be very hungry as well. And that's the mentality I had last year coming into rookie camp as well. So they're going to be pushing us, and we got to be ready for that.
We're joined now by Austin Broad of FC Hockey. So speaking of draft, Austin, a couple of those top names yesterday that went for the IceDogs: Ryan Roobroeck, 2nd overall, Ethan Czata at 5th overall. Thoughts on taking the two forwards with those 2 picks, and then getting the defenseman and Artem Frolov in the 2nd round?
Yeah, so I'll start off by saying we always talk about how the NHL draft is kind of a luck of the draw, even more so with the OHL or any of the junior leagues, because these kids are so young and you're trying to project. I think you and I talked earlier in the day, before the draft was even made, that if Niagara did go the Roobroeck way, which I know there was some rumors coming out the day before once the Schaefer pick was announced, that that's kind of where Niagara was heading. I thought that was a really good pick for them. I mean, we know he's not quite as big as his brother, who Niagara did have, but he's a big offensive center. He's skilled. He's great with the puck on his stick in the offensive zone. He's got a lethal shot. So that Niagara was a little bit – they didn't really have an exact direction at the start of the year when the new ownership came in, but now they kind of know where they're going. They're setting the foundation now. This was a huge day for them to kind of get some foundational pieces. I love the Roobroeck selection. There's always a debate on who's going to go where, who's the second, who's the third consensus guy with these kids. But I think there was really no wrong choice for the IceDogs, and taking Roobroeck was a very, very good selection for them. Obviously, there's no such thing as a perfect prospect. We know that. So there's obviously going to be some detractors there. But I really like the Roobroeck selection. The Czata pick, I know there was rumors that that's the route they were going, but it was still a little bit of a surprise to me. But again, when you're taking 2 offensively talented centers that you can hopefully build around for the next, 4 years, especially with Roobroeck being a later birthday, they know they're going to have him for 3 years guaranteed. Really nice job by the IceDogs with those 2 picks there. Artem Frolov, a Russian guy who came over and played in Canada for his AAA hockey. Don't really know what to expect with him, but I like his size. I like his ability to skate, move the puck around. He's got some good offensive numbers there as well. We do know that Niagara needs help on the back end. That was kind of probably one of their glaring issues throughout the season. So drafting a defenseman in the second round, I think, is a really good selection, especially if the value met their board there.
Yeah, with Matt Schaefer going first overall to Erie, I think that really just made it easier for the IceDogs to have to, choose Ryan Roobroeck. If Schaefer wouldn't have been taken, do you think that there would have been much of a debate, or do you think that Ryan Roobroeck, being a guy that was almost granted exceptional status last year before Michael Misa was able to get it, do you think that he might have been number one on some boards even ahead of Schaefer?
I think there could have been an argument there, but I think talking to most people, Schaefer was probably the easy route for the number one overall pick. So I think if Schaefer was there, it might not have been as easy as a slam dunk as people think. I know DeDobbelaer said Ryan Roobroeck was his consensus number one overall, which leads me to think that if Roobroeck and Schaefer were there is a pretty good shot that Roobroeck was still the pick. But I guess we don't have to worry about that. In his mind, they got their guy, and I think he can easily be, maybe not right away, but I think he can be a number one center for the IceDogs to build around, pair with, Kevin Heath, their talented scoring winger there. They have the makings of a really solid foundation in place after those three picks.
Austin Broad joins us on the line from FC Hockey. Austin, when you look at day 2 and you're looking for value in rounds 4 to 15, if you're, looking at it and some of those prospects that you might have seen and written about there at FC Hockey, just, what is it about those mid to late round picks that you're really looking for as far as tangibles to really develop them into OHL players one day?
So in mid to late round picks, in any draft, but particularly the OHL draft, again, these kids are so young, it's so hard to project this, but you got to be looking for guys that not only have the intangibles there, but to me, the most important thing is the skating ability. The skating ability is so crucial to go from AAA to junior hockey, and the skating level makes a difference when whether your ceiling is OHL, CHL, whatever you want to call it, junior A or junior B. If you have good skating ability, I think coaches, especially in the OHL, they're so talented, they can kind of work with everything else. If the skating ability is there, you have a really good shot at turning into a solid player because you've already been around some of the best coaching you've ever been around, but that is even more so the case in the OHL. So I know whether people talk about whether or not skating is a big knock or whether it's something that can be fixed. Skating can be fixed, but it's a lot easier to work on the other skills than it is on completely redoing someone's skating ability. So if you have good skating ability, I don't care what your size is, because these kids are so young, they're going to grow, they're going to put on weight. The size doesn't really matter. To me, if you can skate, you have a good shot at getting drafted in the OHL. And finding that value that meets your board. I mean, we all know in the pro draft, it's best player available. It doesn't matter about position of need. I think you should probably still follow that method with the OHL, but you can kind of tweak it a little bit there where if you are bad, if your depth on the back end isn't that good, you can probably reach for a guy who's a defenseman compared to a forward if you don't need forwards in the immediate future. Because in the OHL, you only have, let's say, a 3 to 4 year window where you compete before you're going to have to start it all over again. It's just the nature of the league when you can only have guys from 16 to 20 years old.
Yeah, and to kind of elaborate on that, Austin, I mentioned it earlier in the show. Players taken in the later rounds in the OHL draft, it's either hit or miss sometimes. We looked at the IceDogs past drafts after the 4th round. Some players have gone on in this organization to be key players, even traded to other organizations to be top players. Names like Tucker Tynan, like just the goalies I say right now, Tucker Tynan, Josh Rosenzweig, to name a few. What is the importance of the later rounds in the OHL compared to as the NHL, or is there not a difference at all?
Oh, there's a difference. I think there's some similarities where in the later rounds you're looking for those depth pieces in the future. You're not necessarily, you hope a guy turns into a star, but you're looking for quality depth pieces in both junior and the professional level. Let's face it, you have the stars, that's a good thing. But if you have the stars with no depth, you're not going anywhere. So trying to find a potential depth piece in the later rounds, if you hit on those picks, you don't have to go spend assets elsewhere, whether it's trading for a depth player or anything like that. If you can hit on those late picks and get quality OHL players, you're setting yourself up for a really successful future where you can use those high, like when you're going for a Memorial Cup, you can use those higher draft picks to get a star player rather than trying to scramble for these depth guys, because we see it. We know when Niagara went out and made big trades in the past and got guys like Jason Robertson and things like that. They thought they were going for it. They had good success, but the depth didn't quite match up to their opponents in those years. That's where those late round picks are huge. If you hit on those, you're setting yourself up because the foundation was already in place. It was just that depth there. So if you hit on a guy in the 10th round and he turns into an OHL player, you're laughing because that's basically a bonus.
Austin Broad from FC Hockey. Last quick one for you, Austin. You look at the depth of this team from this last year, and obviously it was tested at more times than not this season. They weren't able to overcome some of the injuries on defense. They're losing 3 overagers as well on the defensive side of things. And then even up front, some games they only had, 10 to 11 forwards. They weren't able to have those 4 full lines up front. Just how important is it to add the depth to this organization, with the 2 top 5 picks coming in, Artem Frolov? Just how much do you think that is a point of emphasis to have this team be, competitive next season, to make sure that depth starts from the back end out, and that they make sure that they have, that organizational depth, those extra forwards, those 7-8 defensemen that are going to be able to come in the lineup and produce and be able to, help this team despite maybe having some injuries during the season?
Yeah, so any team kind of struggles to overcome injuries there. I think Niagara was a little bit behind the 8 ball because they had so many injuries, plus so much roster turnover. It was probably hard for everything to gel. But I think some of the forwards really stepped up. Declan Waddick really turned into something that I didn't really expect him to be, which is awesome. Having him for at least another year will be crucial for Niagara. Adding these young kids into an already, let's face it, offense wasn't probably Niagara's issue last year. Kevin Key played awesome. They had a bunch of 20-goal scorers, which might have been maybe a little bit unexpected. So adding a guy like Roobroeck and Czata early on in there into an already pretty solid forward group is going to be a big deal. And then just like you said, they're losing that 3 OAs on the back end, but you added a defenseman in the second round who can hopefully play. Bronson Ride took a lot of strides at the end of last year after the trade. Hopefully he can keep making strides and become a staple on that back end there. It's just, you basically just have to hope you stay healthy, because no team is built to withstand the injuries that Niagara kind of dealt with last year. Adding depth will be huge. Let's face it, we know this GM is going to be extremely active. Maybe not as active now because he's already done the OHL for a year. He kind of knows what it's all about. Looks like he knows which direction he wants to do this, build for the future while being competitive now. So I think Niagara's on the right path. The good news is the OHL is such a random league, and only 2 teams in each conference don't make the playoffs. You can tell me Niagara would slide into 6, 7, 8 seed. I wouldn't be surprised at all because of the talent that they've been able to add into the draft. And there's still a lot of off season left. So I think they started out really well. Let's face it, no draft is a home run. Everyone's going to find something to complain about. I think they've done a really good job so far through their first couple picks, and it looks like that there's a ton of draft left, and kind of hard to judge it right now, but so far pretty pleased with their start, and I do think that there's going to be more additions made. I think that fans, I know it was a tough year, but I think you should probably start being a little bit optimistic here, because there is a chance that Ryan Roobroeck becomes the number 1 center in the OHL, and that's pretty dang exciting because the face of Niagara didn't have that.
Right now, by another special guest, we've got the captain of the Niagara IceDogs, Landon Cato, joins us. Landon, thanks a lot for coming back on again. First question, how are you feeling? I know you just had surgery a little while back, and how's the recovery process going?
Thanks for having me again. Hope everyone's doing well. It's doing good, actually. I got surgery on my right shoulder last week, Thursday. I know it was a bit in the dark most of the season, but I did get surgery on my right shoulder about a week ago Thursday, and I'm recovering really well after, a lot faster than I thought. A lot of the pain's gone away now. I'm getting a bit more mobile in my shoulder, and just really happy that I got everything done, and I can look on forward to the new season and the exciting draft picks that we have, and look forward to playing with them on the same ice at the Meridian Centre.
Landon, when you talk about those draft picks and draft day, draft weekend, can you remember back to when you were drafted for the IceDogs and what that moment was like for you and your family, and just, when this week happens every year, do you kind of look back and reflect on your time, being drafted when you did as a 3rd-round pick, 46th overall back in 2019?
It's a great question because I can remember it like it was yesterday, actually. I had my whole family, and we were in my living room, and this was during we were all in my living room, and this was during the day that we did it a bit. They did it a bit different during my draft. Like I was up at like 11 o'clock. I think I was drafted by at least 12 or 1 o'clock. So
wow.
Mine was a bit easier than most of these kids. Seems pretty tough to wait for the whole first round until 7 o'clock. So I don't know if I'd be able to do that. My anxiety and nerves would be running. So, but no, yeah, I can remember the day clearly. It was probably the best day of my life. Seeing my mom and dad just cheer and go crazy for me getting drafted, and then seeing yourself work for something your whole life, and then it finally comes to fruition is one of the best feelings in the world. And that's kind of one of the main points that I kind of told these guys that got drafted when I reached out to them, is just enjoy every moment. I know in some of my other podcasts I've talked about that, but like growing up and being in now my 5th year in the league, like you really see that time flies by. So just be able to embrace every single second of that day and enjoy every single second of the draft. Even though it is nerve-wracking and it's a bit hard to sit through sometimes, it's always awesome when you do hear your name go up. And it is a well-earned accomplishment and something that these kids should be very proud of, and something that not many kids in this world get to experience. So it is a very, very, very great thing to be hearing your name on that screen or seeing your name on that screen.
IceDogs captain Landon Cato joins us on the line.
Cato, IceDogs taking a defenseman with their second-round pick in Artem Frolov. What have you heard about Artem Frolov? Have you reached out to him at all after being drafted? And, well, we just heard from Kevin Heath that he was on the ice with Artem while he was being drafted. What excites you about him and his play bringing that to this defensive core, and you being obviously the captain of this team, but also an overage veteran now for this defensive core of the team?
Yeah, I think it's huge. I think we secured our 2 forwards early in the draft. I think that was big, and then seeing Artem go on the board, it was pretty great. This is a kid that Kev talks about a lot. And then, funny story, he did actually, right before the kid got drafted, or right when he got drafted, Kevin sent a picture of him, and guys were kind of confused, and he's like, yeah, no, I'm on the ice with the kid. So it was pretty cool. Somehow the kid answered me while he was supposed to be on the ice, so that's even better. And I reached out to him. He seemed very excited to come in. I've heard a lot of good things about Artem. He's a great skater, great puck mover. I hear a lot of great things about him, so I am very excited to get on the ice with him, and hopefully next year we play alongside him.
And when you talk about the other draftees, Ryan Roobroeck coming in, obviously you knew his brother Dylan Roobroeck from his time here in Niagara. Did you ever cross paths with Ryan while Dylan was here? And obviously you've probably known his parents. So just how exciting is that to bring in another Roobroeck to the organization and welcome him in as a second overall pick? I know there's a lot of pressure there, but how are you going to kind of calm his nerves down and just bring him on and make sure that you bring him along the right way as a rookie?
One of the best families I've probably ever came across in the OHL. Dylan, one of the greatest kids, easygoing, doesn't take much to make that kid happy. And so me and him have a great relationship. It's grown over the years, even though he is now in Oshawa. You do see us battle a lot on the ice, but that's just being competitive guys. But he is a great kid, one of my friends. And Ryan, I knew him a lot actually. We used to talk about him because Dylan would tell us how he's doing even before his draft year, and I think everyone knows the story about Ryan Roobroeck. So it was a name probably everyone knows. When Dylan was on the team, probably I would say the 22 players on our team knew who Ryan Roobroeck was. And then this year, I actually got the privilege to meet him at a game in Kitchener that I was injured in. They brought the whole team Ontario down there, and just funny enough, I was just walking to the dressing room after the game, and they were walking out, and I seen him, so I stopped him, and we kind of had a little chat before there. Nothing big, just kind of talking about how the season's going and stuff like that. But he's a great kid, comes from a great family, and he's going to fit in very, very well, just like his brother did. So I'm excited to be with him. And being drafted second overall, like you said, it is a huge accomplishment, but it does come with a lot of stress and pressure. And that's just one thing, just like Kevin and just like all these other first-year guys are going to try and take them under my wing and just teach them things that I learned over the years and just things that help me with stress and that help me with the pressure. And because we all feel it, no matter if you go in the first round or if you go in the 6th round, no matter what you get picked, everyone feels the pressure and the stress of the OHL. But at the end of the day, I say this a lot, that this is a game that we love playing and we grew up playing. This is all we really know. And so I'm just going to help him really get to where he wants to be, hopefully, and hope for the best for that kid.
And Landon, last question for you. I know Kyle and I have talked a lot about, adding the depth to this organization. Due to the injuries and stuff this last season, it was hard for you guys to overcome that deficit, and giving up 357 goals as a team. Obviously, that didn't equate to a lot of wins. But just how much do you think adding these players that you've added so far with the 2 top 5 picks on forward, Artem Frolov on D, they're going to have you back. Wysick is going to be healthy. And then obviously a trade or two could be made in the offseason to bring in some guys. Just how competitive do you think this team can be right away starting next season and trying to build back into that playoff contending team that you guys wanted to be coming into last year, but just being able to cut down on those goals against and have that organizational depth when guys get out of the lineup, that you'll have other guys to be able to step in and produce?
I think it's huge. I think this year we're going to come with a whole new attitude. I've talked closely with the coaching staff and the ownership and GMs, and we're going to have a whole different mindset in camp. And I know all the players in our group chat are ready to do it, just ready to be professional from day one. And I think with this draft, having 2 such high picks, I think it makes it even easier for us to go along with our goal, and that is obviously to make playoffs. And I think Darren and our coaching staff won't accept anything less, which is great. So, I think you guys, fans and everyone watching, should be ready for a great season next year. I think all the boys are motivated. And come training camp, that's when the tempo picks up, and it's going to be a hard training camp for all the new kids and even for the kids returning. I know the coaching staff and the owners have told us from exit meetings to even now, they're telling us that trip camp will be a hard camp, and it will be a competitive camp, and there will be a lot of competing. There will be a lot of battling and everything that's going to make a team better that we're going to try and implement into our system and into our locker room. We talk about culture a lot in Niagara, and it's taken steps. It's taken, for sure, big steps under Kulbara and Brandon Shaw and Jeff Angelides. I just think that it's a learning game. I think we're a young team. Like you said, a lot of injuries last year. So we're going to obviously try and clean that up. Me and Wysick obviously will be back and ready to play for the full season, which will be great. Adding Artem on the back end will be great. We have Announcer Rod coming back, and then our forwards are really, really high end right now. And on paper, they look amazing. So hopefully, going into next year, we'll have everyone coming and ready to go. And hopefully we'll give the fans what they deserve.
Joined now by the Director of Scouting for the Niagara IceDogs, Adam Henrich. Adam, thanks a lot for coming on with us. I know it was an exciting but stressful time for your group. First question, just how much did you enjoy the process and really getting to have everything culminate for your guys' hard work during the season?
I thought we did a really good job. Everybody gathering all the best possible information we could all year. We saw countless hours and countless games. And I believe I'm very confident, we had a very strong draft. We didn't, I think the good thing about what we did here is we did our due diligence, we did our research, we figured out the best possible player for our situation, and we went after it.
And getting into some of the picks specifically, Ryan Roobroeck, 2nd overall. What did you guys like from him and why he was selected 2nd? I know he just missed out on the exceptional status role going with Michael Misa last year for that honor, but what made you want him, and why Darren DeDobbelaer and Wes Consorti also spoke so highly of him being number 1 on your draft board?
So Ryan's been the consensus number 1 all along, which everybody knows. He's dynamic, he's big, he can shoot, he can score, he's smart. We watch him in the junior games all year, and he dominated, right? I'm a firm believer of a player like this who should have kept progressing in his hockey career, and he had to go back down, which isn't easy. We have a kid coming in who's going to be here for 3 years, who's going to put up points, who's really smart, who wanted to be here, right, which is really big. So we were really confident. We never, there's players that came through that were like, hey, we like, or they did this, but we never wavered on Ryan, right? And we're really excited and happy. And I think the fact that we were able to get Ethan Czata at 5 complements those 2 types of games really well. So.
And speaking of Ethan Czata, you know, what made you guys so intrigued by him to pick him 5th overall, going 2 forwards there with picks 2 and 5, and adding that depth to the forward group as an area of need? What made you want to bring Ethan in here after taking Ryan at 2?
So Ethan is a player I watched since day one, and I sort of fell in love with this game. Right, he does everything right. That's basically it, you know. And the season went on, he carried his team, and he got stronger and stronger, right? He's going to be a guy that comes in this league. He's going to be a leader on his team. He's going to put up points in every category. He's going to play proper defensive hockey. You know, he's a championship player, right? And that's why we took him, and that's what we need. And you got a guy like Ryan who's going to do all that. Plus, and you have a guy like Ethan Czata. I mean, look at our center depth now. I mean, that's pretty solid, you know. And then we'll go to the Artem Frolov, right? I mean, I keep going. So he's another kid I saw. I had him 4th overall the first weekend. And, you know, as the season went on, he was in and out of the lineup, you know, and then when he got his consistency going, he was the most skilled defenseman in this draft. Hands down, solid, tough to beat. Another guy I felt the game was too easy for him, like Ryan, right? I mean, he's going to flourish in the OHL. He's a game-ready defenseman who's has heavy comparables to the D in Ottawa, the first-round pick to Anaheim. The Russian, you know, Max. You'll know. He was in Minchikov. Sorry, Pavel Minchikov. So, and this kid is game ready, right, which is important for us. So we, you know, and even the people messaging you were like, you know, wow, that's like, you know, these are pretty. And we won points, but guys who could skate. If you look at every one of our players, they can skate and they can score, and we need that here. Right, we have skilled hockey guys who could score and make plays. You know, the previous guys who aren't even here anymore, you know, the skating, and they could do little things right, but they weren't scoring goals. We weren't making heavy plays, and their skating was, you know, wasn't above par. And you know, we guys here are ready to go.
And you mentioned, you know, Artem Frolov. You also took a teammate of his in Galyanov from the Vaughan Kings. What did you like from that program, and why you selected 2 of those players?
I had Galyanov at the end of the first round, and a lot of teams did. So the strong character kid, works hard. We got in the 4th round, a first-round pick. That's the way I see it. He's going to come into this training camp to compete for a spot, and he might make this team, and he probably will. And he'll be a guy you're going to see that's good. I'm telling you, like, I'm so happy. Like, the fact that we got Galyanov in the 4th round was a huge, huge steal. And we basically got, my belief is 3 first-round picks.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there anybody later in the draft that, like, you just said you had to have this guy going through the picks between round 7 and 15? Like, was there somebody there that you saw and just said, you know what, I need to have this player, and you were so ecstatic to draft? You're ecstatic to draft all of them, but just thoughts on if there was a guy or two of note that fans should be really excited for.
So every single pick had value to it, right? Our scouts have worked, like I said, countless hours and hard, and they had their hands in each player. I could say Caden Okavita, captain of the Northwick Rangers. You know, on a lot of people's list, you know, scored 40 goals this year, right? 12th round pick. We got a lucky pick there. You know, he played AP in my junior A team this year. He did really well. So like that's a big pick. Nobody really knows it. Finn Moffat, top goalie from Oakville. Matthias Eckhart in the 8th round. Sorry, Masai Eckhart in the 8th round. His D partner was Matthew Schaefer in the Canada East games. Right. That kid was supposed to go in the 2nd or 3rd round. We got him in the 8th round. Right, but we did our due diligence, our research, our auto guy Dave. We dug in. We're like, we want this kid, and we were going to take him, and we realized we could get him where we got him. So we just got a top 2 pairing in the Canada East games on D in the 8th round. Right, that's pretty impressive, right? So then you have guys from the area who we'll watch, who want to support the area and stuff. We have guys who could be projects and stuff we think could be in the system in a year or 2, right? But overall, everyone had their own value. You know, to have Kevin, his younger brother here is great. You know, Kevin's a superstar player for us, and, you know, now he's going to have a chance to compete, right?
Yeah, I was going to ask you, that was my next question about Kevin, his brother Eric. Just what did you see from him at the Toronto Red Wings? And obviously you have a past with Kevin, knowing him, and you spoke so highly of him earlier this year, saying that he's going to be a 100-point guy in this OHL. So what do you see from the He family? Because sometimes you're not just drafting players, you're drafting people that come from good families and good pipelines. Siblings come in this league all the time from the past. So what did you like about these players from the He family that, are just built so well and are so mature and well-spoken?
Well, that's the thing. They have a strong character base, that family. I know the parents really well. I coached Kevin before. So Eric, I've coached and trained as well. He is all around like a dominant player. He has some time to put his game together. He's a natural scorer. He's always been strong on a good team. I was very confident in his selection. I think that having his brother here is obviously really good too. So, like I said, any player we're taking, there's value to it. You could see he's almost 6 feet already, Eric. He could skate, but he's a natural scorer, right? You could see him coming into camp and really opening eyes.
And last question for Adam Henrich, Director of Scouting with the IceDogs. Just thoughts on just adding so much forward depth to this organization. I know you added a couple of defensemen and a goaltender as well. But early on, you really went after forwards. Best player available is usually the way to go in the draft. But just how excited are you to add so much depth to this organization, which will help them, grow into that contending team that they want to be, building back up the standings, and just having that organizational depth from top to bottom to be able to play guys when injuries and suspensions happen and be able to have guys that are going to compete hard at training camp next year to make sure that this is the most competitive Niagara IceDogs team that we've seen in a few years.
And that's what we want, right? We've got all different positions. All guys bring different types of structure to the game, and everyone can compete in their own right at camp, right? And we want to challenge them. I said to Eric He, I've said to, Benjamin Arnold, I said, you're coming into camp thinking you're going to make this team. You might be a 10th round pick, but you're good enough. And that's the mindset you got to have. And we want that. We want you to challenge Frolov. We want you to challenge Czata, right? We want to make competition. And if it's not this year, it's next year, right? We're building down the pipeline, like you said, and it's a development system. And if it's not this year, it's next year. But we have the right guys in the mix, and we had all different types of positions.
Pleased to be joined now by Alliance Scout for the Niagara IceDogs, Bryan Drury. Big fan of the show. So first off, Bryan, thanks so much for supporting us throughout the season, and glad to have you on for the first time.
Yeah, thank you. Big fan of the show, as you know. Always nice to support local and gentlemen like you that are putting in the hard work and effort to support us.
Appreciate that. Thanks. So before we get into the picks, Bryan, just can you talk about this whole weekend for the staff, just to kind of get together? It's like Christmas morning for scouts, all your hard work throughout the season, all the drives and games that you've seen. Just how exciting is it to finally, be here for the draft weekend and having it all culminate with the draft, bringing those young men to the organization?
Yeah, great experience and everything else. And for me, it's all a 360 experience where I sat in Maple Leaf Gardens for 9 rounds waiting for my name to be called, and all of a sudden I'm on the other side of the table and see that part of the game, which is so fantastic. And like you said, Christmas for sure, because you've already commented on my Christmas socks that I'm wearing. So it was great to see all the guys, all the scouts back in, the head scout Adam, and then all the coaching staff too are involved, which we don't see a lot of during the season just because of our geographic location. And they're busy, of course, so it was nice. I played against Ryan when I was younger, so it's another full circle moment where I see someone that I played against too, right? So it was fantastic to have that kind of interaction and rapport, and we had a great time talking about our generation of playing and how different it is from this generation, not a good or a bad thing, but just a different thing, and how he supports and how he's changed his style of coaching and everything else to fit it, right? And which is fantastic.
Great stuff. So, talking about that and getting together with those guys, making these selections, sometimes you get into draft rooms and there might be a little bit of give and take back and forth. But it seemed like from a consensus, Ryan Roobroeck was your guy at number 2 overall. I know you got to see a lot of him in the Alliance League. So what do you like from Ryan Roobroeck, and what can IceDog fans be really excited about for his type of play that he's going to bring to Niagara?
Yeah, watched him a ton, and that's the Alliance is my area. And again, we've all watched him at the OHL Cup. To me, the way I described it, and I couldn't figure out, and I've seen a lot of hockey, how a person of his stature and skill can disappear and end up in white ice and bury pucks. I still don't understand. He's there, what he can do, and he still does it game in and game out. Finding that white ice and that NHL level release is something special, for sure.
And, he was the guy that almost got exceptional status into the league last year, was battling for it with Michael Misa, who ended up getting it with the Saginaw Spirit. And then he comes back in his actual draft year. Did you guys think that there was any waiver on him going was he number one on your board the whole time? I know Matt Schaefer really, came up the board in the second half of the year, and obviously Martin's also a very good player. But was there no doubts in your mind and your staff's mind that Ryan Roobroeck would be the guy at 2?
Yeah, all three players are fantastic that you just mentioned, and everything else. But Ryan was one that we were keying on, and it just happened where the draft played out and everything else. He was there for us to take at 2.
And going into some of the other Alliance players that you were able to see this year, and players that you were able to get a good eye on scouting-wise, Darcy DeWatcher from the Brantford 99ers, what did you see from Darcy, and what, he'll be engraved into the system already with the 99ers affiliation with Niagara. Just what have you seen from him, and what makes you think that he might eventually be able to develop into an OHL player, whether that be a call-up or a full-timer maybe in 2 or 3 years?
Yeah, again, hard worker, very good skater, up and down, a little more offensive upside, but also in talking with him and his parents and everything else, it's working on his D side of the game, making sure that he's on the right side of pucks, and just that working hard and the skating skill is fantastic. Good release, good shot.
And the last player that you're familiar with, Jack Ferris, also from Brantford. Just what do you like to see from Jack? Both defenders in DeWatcher and Ferris. What do you like from them, and why do you think that they could possibly bring stability to the IceDogs back end?
Yeah, and again, it's the hard work and the work ethic. We know both of the parents and the families and everything else. So in watching them, and I've went down and watched a few practices as well, the work ethic is there for both of them. And with Ferris, it's more of a defensive game than that offensive game. So you have that nice, steady, stay-at-home defense that takes care of his own end.
Yeah, and we saw that with Gabe Runco coming up from the 99ers this year, and really, put that stable presence on the defensive side of things, brought that physical aspect at all times, and even the guys like Andrew Vermeulen and William Stewart. What have you seen from the IceDogs that, came through the 99ers system, and then, it wasn't the easiest situation to go into this year with everything that was going on with the injuries, and having all those guys from Brantford step into roles and try to develop them as OHL players?
Yeah, I was very fortunate at just before Christmas that Darren did ask me to help out a little bit on the ice and everything else. So I had a first-hand glance at all those kids and the 3 that you called up. And it's and I totally understand being through a system and everything else that it's hard being a call-up. But again, Gabe Brunco worked hard, stay-at-home defenseman, and worked on his game and staying with Stewie and Verms, right? So all good players. And again, I was so lucky that I actually had first-hand knowledge and discussions with them.
And last question, as a player yourself, you've gone through the trials and tribulations just of a hockey season and the ups and downs, and the IceDogs didn't go through a season that they want, and they want to continue to build up with the great young players that they brought in and the ones that they already have. So from what you've seen, how excited are you to see the progress of this team moving forward the next, year, 2, 3 years, as they, want to build in that contending team after a few years of really trying to get this rebuild right?
Yeah, again, I went through very similar trials and tribulations when I did play. Owen Sound, I think we won 12 games in 1 year, so I totally understand that side of the game. What really makes me ready for the future and everything else is sitting down with Ryan and talking with him, just understanding that thought process that he has, building that culture, building that, the work ethic and how you're going to approach things. He approaches that as a professional, and that is something that is special for sure, and very much so in having a bunch of coaches and been coaching for 30 years. He's going to be a special coach for sure.